In my last video, I presented credible evidence that Jack Ruby snuck into the basement by means of pretending to be part of the WBAP camera crew and pushing a television camera. And here I have him in loop, waving to somebody. I touched upon the element of time involved regarding his appearance at the Western Union office just before the shooting, and I did not get into the specifics of that, but now I want to get into those specifics. Well, at least some of the specifics. I don't want to get into the details that the Warren Commission did. If you're interested in excruciating detail on this issue, then you can look up the testimony of Doyle E. Lane. He was the Western Union clerk who dealt with Ruby, and they go on and on with Mr. Lane. And the point really is the times stamped on these receipts having to do with his Western Union money transfer. There are 2 times stamped on there, 11/16 and 11/17, which, if this is all on the level, proves that Ruby was at the Western Union office or he left it no earlier than the 11:17 minute, and they go into great detail about how their clocks are set every morning by some national clock. And of course, if the conspiracy had co-opted Doyle, then that could all have been faked very easily. And I think that's one possibility. But I don't think you need Doyle, the Western Union clerk, to be on the conspiracy team in order to explain the problem here. And the problem, of course, is that there are 2 times involved here. One time is when Ruby was at the Western Union office, and the other time is when Ruby shot Oswald. And for that second time, the Warren Commission simply states Jack Ruby shot Lee Harvey Oswald at 11:21 a.m. And contrary to the Western Union exercise, they do nothing whatsoever to prove that that's the time that Oswald was shot. They simply state it as a fact, and if it is a fact, that means Ruby has no more than 4 minutes to get from the Western Union office to where he's shooting Oswald. And the camera, they state in the report that the camera was wheeled in 4 minutes before Oswald was shot. And so, actually, the film I have anyway, that I can find, runs 3 minutes and 17 seconds prior to when Oswald was shot. But to be fair to the Warren Commission, there would have to be more time. Ruby had to join that camera somewhere, presumably in the elevator, so it would be at least 4 minutes. I mean, if the Warren Commission is correct, that is, if Ruby was at the Western Union office at 11:17 and Oswald was shot at 11:21, then that cannot be him with the camera in the film. But they did nothing, as I said, to establish that the time actually was 11:21. Now, if you've ever tried to do so, you know it can be very frustrating to establish times based upon the recordings we now have of the live broadcasts of what happened during the JFK assassination. But this video here has a time clock on the bottom, and that time clock appears to correspond to the time of day in Dallas, whatever that is, Central Time, whatever that is. Now, I don't know it stated anywhere that that's what that's supposed to represent, but that's what it is. I mean, it says 11:25 on there, and I think what it means is it's 11:25 a.m. in Dallas when this clip starts.
Bob Walker, WFAA-TV, Dallas, Texas, interrupting. There's been a shooting at Dallas Police Station as Oswald was being transferred. For details, Bill Lord, ABC at City Hall. Bill.
Just 1 minute ago, they were bringing Oswald out. He had apparently changed clothes. He was just going out the door, heading towards the armored car, and there was a bang. We believe it was a shot.
Now, Bill Lord, right there, said just 1 minute ago, Oswald had been shot. And this time clock has a time on it of 11:25. So if Oswald had been shot a minute ago, it seems to me that he was shot at 11:24. And if he was shot at 11:24, that means that Jack Ruby had 7 minutes to get from the Western Union to the police station and to go down with the camera and get in position to shoot Oswald. That is enough time to do that. If that had been planned in advance, that would be enough time to do that. And they depended upon this in the Warren Commission report. They excluded this possibility that it could be Jack Ruby with the camera because they think that he only had 4 minutes to get to be with that camera. But if he had 7 minutes, he could have been with that camera 3 minutes, or he would have had 3 minutes to get from the Western Union to where that camera was. And that's enough time if it has been prearranged and the doors are all open for him to do so. But alack-a-day, it is not that simple.
Got him on the stretcher. It's now 11:24 here in Dallas.
Ay caramba! Bill Lord just gave the time. This is the only time that I'm aware of that anybody in the media, from the recordings we have, actually stopped and bothered to tell us what time it was while things were happening.
It's now 11:24 here in Dallas.
And the time he gives, he says it's 11:24 here in Dallas. Well, if that's true, then the time clock is 5 minutes ahead. That's not really 11:29, it's 11:24. And that means somehow that Oswald, according to Bill Lord's time, was shot at 11:19. And if Bill Lord's time is correct, then of course it can't be Ruby with the camera. And just in case you missed that time, Bob Walker actually reminds us.
Given it was 10 o'clock this morning. The actual transfer took place an hour and 20 minutes later.
He even pretends to look at his watch, but why is he looking at his watch? He's not looking at his watch to see that it's 10 o'clock. He's not looking at his watch to see that it's an hour and 20 minutes later, 11:20. That was almost 20 minutes ago now. He just looks at his watch to reinforce this idea that he's checking the time for you. Yeah, it was 11:20.
Given it was 10 o'clock this morning. The actual transfer took place an hour and 20 minutes later.
But wait, there's more.
But they decided to move him. They made a public announcement that he would be moved at 10 o'clock this morning. It occurred at 11:20.
He did it again. Again, he tells us what time it was when Oswald was shot or when he was moved. And again, he looks at his watch when he can't be trying to tell what time it is. He's telling what time something happened, 15, 20 minutes ago. But he looks at his watch anyway, just to impress upon you that he's telling you what time this happened. So what almost never or never happens during this entire 3-weekend event, that is telling us exactly what time it is when something happened, happens to occur here 3 times. We are told 3 times, essentially, that Oswald was shot at 11:21. And so the Warren Commission doesn't have to spend a lot of time on this, do they? This has already been established for them in real time, at least here on ABC News by Walker. That's this guy's name, right? Walker. But what Bill Lord and Bob Walker tell us seems to contradict the time clock we have on the screen for this video.
Got him on the stretcher. It's now 11:24 here in Dallas. It's now 11:24 here in Dallas. It's now 11:24 here in Dallas.
Is it really 11:24 here in Dallas, Bill? Is it really? I don't know. Of course, if my suspicion here is correct, that means that Walker and Lord and ABC News have all coordinated in advance to make the time seem earlier than it really was. But I don't know I don't know anything about this apparent time clock on here. But of course, I'm very suspicious because the times are never given in these events, and here it's essentially given 3 times, and that is very uncharacteristic, and it also contradicts what apparently is the time clock telling us what time it is. So perhaps you can understand my suspicion.
It's now 11:24 here in Dallas.
So, as improbable as that may seem, I think that's the explanation. I think Oswald was shot at 11:24, that the Western Union information is correct, and that the time of the shooting information is incorrect. And I think that ABC News and Bob Walker here and Bill Lord were enlisted somehow with some explanation to provide us with the incorrect times. And well, where will it end? How vast was this conspiracy? Today, I wouldn't be surprised with the media doing something like this, but I am somewhat surprised to think that it may have been that extensive back then, but I shouldn't be. And also, Bob Walker here, although he's doing the national network feed, is one of the locals, as is Bill Lord, and it would be easier for this conspiracy to co-opt the locals. And they are only 2 people. And anyway, I believe the time clock, and I believe that Ruby had 7 minutes to get from the Western Union, and I believe that's enough time for him to be the man with the camera. So I think he was the man with the camera. I think the camera crew also helped him get in, and the conspiracy expands.
It's now 11:24 here in Dallas. It's now 11:24 here in Dallas.